It is good to welcome Fern Marwood on this show once again. Last time she was on the show, she was with her band, The Receivers, with Millie and her sister Willow. And now we're talking everything from her music to her performance in the theater. Fern, how's it going?
I'm good. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. So tell me about the new band that you formed with your sister Willow is titled On Terry.
Yes, yeah. So we formed the band Ontari a couple weeks ago, and it's just more about uh we want to focus on more vocals and more of our own writing rather than covering other people's music. So we're working a lot about on that, and we are hoping to record an EP next spring or summer, hopefully for release.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited to hear it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I hope to invite you and Willow on the program when it comes out.
That would be great.
And of course, you are going to have a show with the receivers, Millie and Willow, come this Wednesday. So as of this recording, so 28th of August. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so that is at a venue called Rice Lakes. And that I don't know too much about it, but I think it's an outdoor concert. The venue sounds super nice. People, bring their own food and sit outside. Yeah, that's all I know about that one so far, but I am excited to see Millie again and play with the receivers.
Mhm. Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, I recently heard her new album and it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, she's really talented. I'm very lucky to know her.
You guys also performed previously at the Rollo Bay Fiddle Fest, right? Yeah, tell me how that went.
Yeah, so this year would have been our second year performing. We've been going for many, many years since we were just kids. So it's a real honor to get to play on that stage and in front of so many of our peers, so many people that we really love and respect so much. Lots of people we've learned from, taking classes from. They've known us since we were, 10, 13 years old. And to get to play on that stage in front of them and really start to give back to that community feels really amazing.
Mhm. Do you plan to record any new music with Millie and Willow as the receivers?
We don't have any plans as of right now, but I hope in the future when everything calms down a little bit. Millie's actually going to university this fall, so we're going to miss her a lot, but we wish her all the best at university and we're sure that she's going to accomplish great things.
Of course, yeah. I hope she has a great time in college as well.
Yeah.
Mhm. And speaking of college, you recently graduated from Algonquin College of the Performing Arts. So tell me about your years there.
It was amazing. It was the most incredible experience. All my classmates were incredible. My profs were just absolutely amazing. I could not have been luckier. I learned so much from each and every one of my profs, but also the students. We all got to work together on projects. We got classes in everything from voice and acting in front of the camera to theater acting and stage combat, which was my favorite. We actually got to work. Our professor for stage combat was this fight choreographer for Vikings, the TV show, and it's one of my favorite shows. So it was really neat to be able to work with him. And we got radio training. Yeah, ensemble training of just a bunch of different classes. We also got kind of more business classes in how it's, and they just kind of explained how it's hard to to start up acting, especially and music, any of the performing arts. It's very difficult to get going, and how you really have to be a business person to get that started. You can't rely on someone else to do it for you. So yeah, all the classes were really helpful, and all the experiences I had and all the friends I made, definitely a really good experience overall.
It's wonderful. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was a 3-year program, oh, if I got.
No, it was just 8 months.
Oh,
It's
really?
just kind of starter program. They shove a lot into eight
Oh,
months, let me
wow.
tell you. It was busy. We had, I think we had 10 classes each semester and just packed. It's very emotionally taxing. You're going places that you didn't think you would with your emotions and tapping in to feelings and memories that you don't, that you don't do that a lot. it's physically taxing. We were never sitting down for, I think we had two classes the whole year that we actually sat down for. The rest you're up on your feet, you're acting, you're fighting, like fighting stage combat with someone. Um, yeah, it was very physically and emotionally taxing, but truly, truly incredible program.
Right. I'm glad to hear it. So, do you have any other plans following your graduation?
Yeah, so I am working on our EP right now, just writing some grants, trying to get the money, the funds for that, and figuring out. I'm writing a lot of songs right now, trying to figure out what's going to go on the album. I am also working on another play. Rehearsals start next week. I'm playing the lead in the show, The Wizard is Odd. I've worked with the director before, and she's fantastic, but I've mostly worked providing music for her shows. And so it's a really nice change to be able to act and learn from her. We've got a voice coach and an acting coach. So I think it's going to be a truly incredible experience. We've also got some gigs. I think every weekend in September we're booked up for gigs, which is pretty nice. It's yeah, I guess those are my plans for now. I'm looking for an agent, trying to get some bigger roles. I've been in a few movies, but I'm trying to get some bigger roles now.
Mhm. Right. So, seems like you're keeping yourself busy this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, speaking of your new EP, so I noticed that the band name Ontari is just Ontario, but without the second O. So, what inspired the band name?
Well, Will and I kind of wanted to um, think about it as a way of honoring where we came from and our roots. Wherever we may travel, we might live different places. We're going to perform all over the world, hopefully, cross our fingers. But we want to remember where we were born, where our love of music was fostered. We thought Ontari is kind of just a nice twist on Ontario, and it sounds nice.
Yeah. Tell me about the new play that you are hoping to do. The Wizard is Odd, right?
Yeah, so it's a spin-off of The Wizard of Oz. And so my character Emily she's moving from a big town, like kind of, I think it's supposed to be kind of like Toronto. But we're moving from a big town. I'm moving with my dad to a small town, and there she gets cast in a play, which is actually The Wizard of Oz. And yeah, so I'm really excited about it. It's a musical, so I get to sing a lot, and there's dancing. And I've never played the lead in a show before, so I'm nervous, but I'm excited about that. We've got some really fantastic people that I can learn from, I think, and I really hope that I can do them all proud and do a good job.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I hope you get the part.
Oh, I already did.
Oh,
Thank
that's wonderful.
you. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Hey. Yeah, so let's talk about your debut at the theater. You played the role of Aphrodite, the Greek goddess, in the play Adonis and the Gods of War. So tell me
Yes.
about how you were cast in that role.
So I heard about it I was still in school when I heard about that. And it was actually because the writer and director of Adonis and the Gods at War, her brother was in my class. So he just kind of put it out there. He said, "Hey, my sister's running this play for Ottawa Fringe. Here's where you can go and audition." So I went and I auditioned, and I actually it was a crazy day. I drove all the way out there, and I'd kind of just gotten my license. I waited a long time to get my license, but I drove all the way up to Ottawa, and I'd never really driven in Ottawa by myself before, but I found where I was supposed to be auditioning. My sister came along for moral support. I also picked up my friend who was also auditioning for the role of Aphrodite. And I went on and auditioned, and they offered me a callback. They asked me to come back that afternoon, but my sister and I had a gig in Ottawa, so we ran out, did the gig in Ottawa, and then rushed back for my callback. My sister Willow was running lines with me in the car for my callback sheet, and yeah, did the callback. Didn't hear for a few more days, but then I got a call later that week saying that I had gotten the part. And then rehearsals started pretty much right away for that. And yeah, it was a small cast, but really great director, stage manager, and the rest of the cast just made me feel really welcome right off the bat.
That's awesome. So how many shows did the play run for?
We did 8 shows within 10 days, so it was pretty intense, especially since the show was very emotionally taxing for especially me and the gentleman playing Adonis. His name is Daniel. And our relationship in the play was messed up. You know, it's Greek stuff. It's going to be messed up. We went in knowing that. But it was still kind of hard. My character Aphrodite had to treat Daniel's character Adonis quite poorly, and it was a very abusive kind of manipulative relationship that we were in the play. So it was just kind of hard because Daniel and I became quite close, and he's my friend, right? So to get on stage every night and treat him like crap for an hour was hard for both of us. I think it was emotionally taxing. So we would get off stage each time, shake off our characters, and give each other a big hug, which made it easier. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So tell me about how the play was received during its premiere.
It was really good. We got a lot of really positive comments from everyone. Lots of my family and friends came out to see it, which was really nice. We had a lot of support. I don't think any of our shows were completely sold out, but we played a lot of shows that were close to sold out. We had really good audiences. And since this was a drama and not a comedy, it's a little harder to tell. You know, you don't get that immediate reaction that you do with a comedy where people would laugh, right? Because Iris, the director and writer, likes to describe her writing style as here's an uncomfortable feeling, sit in it for 45 minutes. So people would kind of laugh uncomfortably at some things that were kind of funny, but it was like obviously messed up. Um, so we didn't get that kind of immediate, gratification that we were doing a good job in the play, but we got some really nice comments, and people would always come up to us after telling us what a good job we did. So I really appreciated that for sure.
All right. Yeah, I wish I could have attended one of the shows, but unfortunately I was in another country.
Yeah, that would have been very far to come.
Mhm. And so were you interested in Greek mythology before doing the play?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was my favorite thing as a kid. I always took ancient history courses just so that I could learn about ancient Greece. I was a huge Percy Jackson fan as a kid, still am. And so just you know, opportunity to play a Greek goddess. My costume was absolutely stunning. The art director did not skimp on the costumes at all. It was 3 meters of textured silk that she had dyed purple, and then all of my, I had all the golden jewelry and everything of Aphrodite, and they did my hair all up in this Aphrodite love knot. So it was just really a dream come true to get to play a Greek goddess of all things. When I'm such a huge fan of Greek mythology, and it was all historically accurate, all the costuming and the set pieces. It was fantastically done. I was really happy with it.
Mhm. So what appeals to you about the stories of the Greek myths?
I honestly don't know. I've loved all history, honestly, all ancient history since I was a kid. I find it really fascinating to learn about. That was one of my favorite subjects in school, along with usually earth and space science, but any type of science or math, really. I'm really interested in. But the ancient history, I found I don't know, honestly. I find the Greek gods funny. A lot of their myths are funny, if not, messed up, because a lot of them are very messed up and cruel a lot of the time. But I think it was honestly the way that Rick Riordan wrote the Percy Jackson series and he kind of did some spin-offs, and I really enjoyed those, like Percy Jackson and the Greek Gods and Percy Jackson and Greek Heroes were some of my favorite books because they were a bunch of old Greek myths, but the way that Rick wrote them was funny, even though if they were a little messed up, he did kind of some of the lighter myths that weren't quite as messed up. And he told them in such a way that it was really entertaining to read and learn about, and it really stuck with me.
Mhm. Yeah, I speaking of Percy Jackson, I think it was introduced to those stories based on the 2011 movie, The Lightning Thief, and
Yeah.
I think it was a wrong way to be introduced to, the Percy Jackson canon, I believe.
Yeah. No, it's funny. As a separate thing, the movies are, they are what they are. But the books are top notch. And the new show that just came out actually is a lot better than the movie. I would still recommend the books first, but the show is very good.
Mhm. Yeah, and I haven't seen the show yet. I know that it's on Disney Plus. Yeah.
I believe that's where I watched it. Yeah.
Mhm. And but I do know that the role of Ares, the god of war, was played by a professional wrestler, Adam Copeland or Edge in the WWE. So Yeah, it's something that I hope to see.
It was incredible. Yeah, he was really good. That was actually the other character in Adonis and the Gods at War was Ares.
Yeah. So tell me about the plot, if you can call it, of the play Adonis.
For sure. So it is a retelling of the old myth of Adonis and Aphrodite, but our director and writer kind of wrote it in such a way she wanted to focus on power and agency in love and relationships and she kind of reversed the gender roles, right? Because often people I think of the the men in relationships being more powerful, like from ancient societies and stuff like that. And often that's what it is thought of. But in this play, Aphrodite was the more powerful one as the goddess. So she had complete control over Adonis. And at the beginning of the play, he's kind of, you can tell he's wanting out of this relationship. He doesn't know how, but he is starting to sense that Aphrodite is very controlling and she can basically make him be anything or do anything that she would like him to do. So he wants out. Aphrodite also has, no, she has endless lovers, basically. He's not her only boyfriend. She has Ares in the other show, who is another boyfriend. And then um, Hephaestus, who isn't even in the play, is her husband, but she doesn't actually like her husband. That's another story, but she doesn't like her husband, which was granted, or who was granted to her by Zeus. So she has Ares as her main boyfriend, but she has affairs with lots of mortals all the time. This is nothing new for her. And Adonis is starting to, sense that at the beginning of the play. So then he starts to, look for a way out. And she ultimately is very manipulative throughout the play and offers to make him a god, but he doesn't want that. And then he, at the end of the play, uses that to get Ares to come. And Ares is basically like, oh, I don't worry about mortals. She has fun until she, you grow old and she comes running back to me. And so Adonis said, not if she makes me a god. And then Ares starts to panic, right? Because he knows that Aphrodite quite likes Adonis, but Ares' whole thing was, well, when Adonis grows old and gray, she'll have no interest in him anymore. Because gods are really, they're a different species. They're immortal, And so when she offers to make Adonis a god, Ares comes and Adonis convinces Ares to help Adonis fake his own death. So he fakes his death. He puts his blood just from his hand on Ares' spear. And there's a bunch of, monologues at the ends, but ultimately Ares goes to Aphrodite and says, your boy offended you. I killed him for offending the most beautiful and beloved of all the gods, all the gods. And yeah, so that was pretty much the story of the play. But there was a lot of kind of hidden messages and a lot of just themes and symbols about love and power that are often overlooked, which I thought was really, really neat.
Yes. Of course, anyone who knows like the basics of Greek mythology knows that Aphrodite is the goddess of beauty and I think erotic love too. Um,
Yeah.
and of course, Adonis is one of the most beautiful mortals ever conceived. So
Yeah.
how is it that when two people get into a relationship, at least depicted in this play, it can get ugly?
So I think it was right from the beginning. So what you don't see in the play, but what is, kind of suggested throughout the play, this was the other really messed up part about it. So when Adonis is a baby, well, actually, it goes way back. So Mer was a princess of a kingdom, and her father, what was his name? I don't remember her father's name at the moment, but her father constantly called her more beautiful than Aphrodite, which just it's not a good idea, right?
Yeah.
To insult a goddess like that. So instead of taking it out on her father, Aphrodite decides to curse Mer. And so Aphrodite makes Mer lust after her own father. Her father finds out and gets mad at Mer and so chases her to kill her. So Mer calls out to the gods for help. And at this point, Aphrodite turns Mer into a tree to save her from her father. Um, and then there's this baby beside the tree. So Adonis is basically the result of incest between Mer and her father. So Aphrodite looks and she's like, oh, that's a really beautiful baby. And so she saves the baby because he's really beautiful, but then realizes she doesn't want him, so gives him to Persephone to raise because she's like, I don't want to care for a baby. But then 17 years later, Adonis is, kind of an adult, getting there. And Aphrodite decides that he's really hot and she wants to take him as her lover, but so does Persephone. So he's got these kind of two mother-like figures wanting him as a lover, which is so messed up. And then he realizes that Aphrodite did curse his mother. So he, starts to kind of ask her about that. But at this point, she doesn't even remember cursing his mom. And so it comes out at the very end of the play. That's how it really goes down, is he yells at Aphrodite for cursing his mother, and Aphrodite doesn't even remember doing it. And yeah, so the whole thing, it's very messed up, but that's how the relationship kind of went sideways.
Yeah. I would say a book that I would recommend, and I just thought of this, is Mythos by Stephen Fry. I don't know if you read that one. It's a great
Yeah,
like summary of the Greek myths by one of the great Englishmen.
it's fantastic. I love it.
And one of the things that I notice about the Greek myths, and it runs contrary to the myth slash religion that I choose to believe in, which is Christianity, is that um, Christianity teaches that man is made in God's image, but
Mm.
in the Greek myths and in the ancient world, the Greek religion, the gods are made in man's image. So the gods carry a lot of man's qualities, but they are hidden in many ways, both the good and the bad. So I wonder, to what extent did the character of Aphrodite you played in the play correspond to the the goddess Venus that you read in the myths?
So she did, I think Venus is the Roman counterpart
Yes, of
to
course.
to Aphrodite. And so there were some similarities for sure. I think that Venus is kind of, in my opinion, and I don't know too much about Venus actually, because I mostly stick to the Greek myths, but I think Venus is kind of just like a more chill version of Aphrodite. She's not, you know, maybe so hot-headed almost. Aphrodite was very kind of just on all the time, right? In the play, she was either manipulating someone, or she honestly didn't know. And this was one of the hardest parts about building the character, was at first I couldn't see Aphrodite's point of view. I was like, man, this, like, she's crazy, she's not nice, she's manipulative. But in order to really build the character, I had to start to see it from her point of view, which was, she's a goddess. This isn't wrong to her. This isn't, she doesn't see anything wrong with this. She's just a goddess. She's a different species. She is immortal. This is a human that she likes. She thinks, oh, what more could he want than the goddess of love, basically? But Adonis wants more in life. He wants to travel. He wants to see the world. He doesn't want to be stuck on Olympus because that's all he really knows. Um, so yeah, I think that there are some similarities for sure, but I think that Aphrodite overall is just kind of more of a hothead, more more crazy.
Yeah. So tell me about the process of getting into the character.
Yeah. So to build the character, we did a lot of character building in the rehearsals, and I built a set list of all the songs that I think represented Aphrodite really well. And so I'd kind of listen to them. I'd walk around. I had to really work on my movement and how I moved and how I held myself, right? Because I don't hold myself like a goddess. I had to give off an aura that I was basically better than everyone else. Everyone waits for me. I walk slowly the entire time because everything is done on my time when I want it done. So it was the way I moved on stage and my, head positions. I had to kind of learn how to be flirty because I'm not a naturally flirty or kind of sexual person. So I really had to learn how to, do the head tilts, the flirty grins, what I did with my voice. So I had a lot of help from my director, which was amazing. And with my relationship with Adonis was very different to my relationship with Aries. So with Adonis, I was always in control. I treated him like he was a lesser being, right? And then with Aries, who is another god, that's very different because we're more on a level playing field. And so at one point, Aries says, "Oh, you can give commands to him, my lady, but you do not command me." So it's just a very, very different relationship that I had to differentiate between the two of them when I was interacting with Adonis versus when I was interacting with Ares. So that was more building the character. When I was actually there, I'd usually arrive an hour and a half to 2 hours early, like before our show started. I'd get into my whole costume. So I'd have some help doing my hair and covering up my tattoos and getting into my gown and all my jewelry. And then I'd go into my dressing room and I would put on my playlist, which was my Aphrodite playlist, and I just kind of start working with the physicality and moving around to the music, and start winking at myself in the mirror, being all flirty, and then from that point on, I couldn't break character. That at that point I was Aphrodite, and I couldn't kind of break out of that until I got on stage, and then I'd go through the whole process of the performance, and then I was able to shake her off completely after and go back to being myself and not being, a goddess.
Yeah. What songs are on the playlist?
Mostly the ones that worked the best for me was Blank Space by Taylor Swift. Mastermind by Taylor Swift was a really good one. That was one of my favorites, I think. Um, Sweet But Psycho was on there. What else? There's one other really good one. It's escaping me right now. But yeah, just a few kind of different songs depending on what I was feeling that night, but all, you know, songs that screamed Aphrodite to me.
Yeah, I remember reading in one of the stories in the myths about the goddess Athena and this one woman Arachne, who's a really good seamstress, and she managed to I guess sew a tapestry that was more well received than Athena, and then Athena was really angry and she turned her into a spider, and that kind of shows that in many ways the gods are competing with humans, even though they are in a different level playing field than humans. And I would say that the same dynamic is depicted in the relationship between Adonis and Aphrodite, at least when it comes to their beauty. So, do you sense that Aphrodite is in some ways competing with Adonis in their relationship as depicted in the play?
I don't think she is competing with Adonis for beauty. I think she wants to have the most beautiful man in the world
Mhm.
because she is, you know, the most beautiful woman in the world. As that she feels she has the right to the most beautiful man in the world. So I don't think in that way she's competing with him. I think she was very much jealous of Mur, Adonis's mother, which is why she cursed her, because Mur's father kept calling her more beautiful than Aphrodite. So I think in a lot of ways, yes, they are absolutely competing with humans. They like to pretend like they're better than everything, better than everyone, but at the core of that is a lot of insecurities. And I think that's why, Ares and Aphrodite throughout the whole play, they were kind of having to reassure each other. Aphrodite is constantly saying, "Look, I love Adonis, but I will always come back to you. It's always you, Ares." And he would have to do, the same thing, kind of reassure her. So underneath all their, perfect godliness is a lot of insecurities and a lot of jealousy for sure.
So, what would be the overlap between your experience as a musician and your acting skills?
Honestly, the only thing that really overlaps is that stage presence, the performance skills, the ability to get up in front of a bunch of people and kind of stay calm, remember what you're supposed to do, remember to do your job. You're there to do a job. No one there wants you to fail. They've all paid to see you, right? They don't want you to do a poor job at this. So kind of knowing that everyone is on your side, which is very different in competitions or something, because people are looking for your mistakes. No one's looking for your mistakes in performances that I do. So I find just figuring out, because I figured out at a very early age how to kind of just keep a level head, do my job. I'm there to do a job. I know what it is. I know what I'm doing. So I think I was able to transfer that fairly well to my acting, and I wasn't as nervous getting up in front of a large crowd as I would have been if I hadn't been a musician beforehand, I think.
Mhm. Right. So finally, career-wise, do you lean towards music or the stage, theater, the theater stage?
Honestly, both. I think I love, as much as I love theater, I'd prefer to do more film and television work, just because it's I love theater, but I have a really hard time. I like to make it very realistic, which you just can't as well in theater, right? You have to be loud, your gestures have to be over the top so that it reads to an audience. But in film and television, the camera's right here in your face, and you can, subtle facial expressions or changes are really well received on a camera. So I think I would prefer to work in film and television. But honestly, I really love music as well. Willow and I are really excited about Ontari and the possibilities for that band. I am absolutely still going to perform with the Receivers. We're hoping to go to Australia in the winter of 2026,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
Yeah. So we have to start planning early, but that is our plan for now to go with the band and hopefully tour quite a bit. Willow's in her last year of high school this year. So once she's finished, touring will be a lot easier. And honestly, I think at this point, I'm just taking it gig by gig. If I can get a background part in the movie, great. If I, can get an agent and I start getting bigger parts in movies, great. If we get gigs for music, that's fantastic. It's honestly whatever comes to me first. And I think there's a lot of overlap. You can kind of do both, especially when just starting out because you need the money, right? So you can kind of just book whatever gig you can as it comes.
Well, so creative wise, you have a very exciting few years ahead of you.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you very much once again, Fern Marwood, for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.